Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram here, and we saw modest gains by the end of the day. A little bit of a volatile session, but ultimately, stocks came out in the green. More Trump tariff headlines, and of course, as always, we've got some stocks for your radar. And joining me to break everything down is my colleague Ken Shreve. Ken, always great to see you.
Nice to see you, Ali, as well. Yeah, sort of an up and down day, but a good close. We had some selling late in the session, like you talked about, but managed a decent close here. So I found three stocks building good bases out there. I'm seeing a lot of good action in individual stocks still. So let's take a look at Duolingo, Duol, XYZ, the new ticker for Square Parent Block, and finally Doximity, DOCS.
All right. Sounds like a plan, Ken. We'll get to those stocks, but first, we need to analyze the major indexes as always. So here's a look at the Nasdaq, up about 0.25% by the end of the day, fading off of intraday highs as you mentioned. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 up about 0.5% on the day. Looks like a bit of a stronger close here. And then the Dow up 0.4% or so by session's close, holding near those highs there. The Russell 2000 with the strongest gain of the day here, Ken, up 1%, but still hitting resistance at that 50-day line here. But overall, what's your assessment of where we're at in the market right now?
I think things are looking pretty good. I'm just going to echo our market strategist Mike Webster, who's been feeling pretty good about this market. And you've got the S&P 500 here holding up near highs. It was a pretty nasty drop on Monday.
Yeah.
Looked a lot worse for the Nasdaq, but at least the S&P held support here. So it's acting just fine. We had very nice breadth on the NYSE today. It was almost 5-1 positive at one point, which is quite good. Faded to about 3.5-1 positive by the close, but still seeing decent breadth in this market. And there's your RSP equal weighted, ETF. Back above the 50-day moving average, and making a nice move. Illustrating that good breadth today.
Absolutely. Okay, and you mentioned the Nasdaq. We're also snapping back here. Of course, Tuesday was a pretty pivotal snapback kind of day, but we're still holding the 50-day line here, Ken.
It's a very impressive performance. I think ServiceNow trades on the NYSE, but it's a tech bellwether. It's a
Mhm.
big enterprise software giant. ServiceNow sold off very sharply today. So to see software stocks in general hold up pretty well in light of the ServiceNow sell-off, you can see the IGV, lost 7/10 of 1%. But I was just looking in the top holdings there. Three out of the four top holdings were really down sharply today. So CRM. Was down almost 3%. Pretty decent close. Held its 50-day moving average. Microsoft, down 6%, and then ServiceNow really got taken to the woodshed. So overall, this was a story of strong breadth again, and the
Mhm.
market was able to overcome some a weak report from ServiceNow.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll take it. Let's also check in on the 10-year treasury yield here, Ken. We're continuing to see this recent downtrend here coming off of that 4.8% level that we hit just a couple of weeks ago. So continuing to pull back here. Here comes that 50-day line, though. Will that be a support level?
Well, it should be. I mean, this is not a price and volume chart, but it is a price chart, and that is the 50-day moving price average for the 10-year Treasury yield. So that should be a support level. It's obviously getting pretty close to there right now. So we'll see if it can hold support. We've got a big economic report tomorrow morning with the personal consumption expenditures index. It's one of the Fed's favorite inflation gauges.
Hmm.
It's going to be part of the personal income and spending report. So, that core year-over-year inflation has just kind of staying up near that 3% level, a little stubbornly high. Fed wants to see that make more progress towards 2%. So tomorrow, on a year-over-year basis, core prices are expected to be up 2.8%, and that would be unchanged from the prior month. So, the market and the Fed wants to see that coming down closer to 2%. But overall, when you're looking at the price action in the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 here, I think the market is still confident that the Fed is going to be able to engineer a soft landing here, and that inflation ultimately will be contained. So I think that's why the market's acting like it is.
All right. Now let's take a look at some notable stocks, including Duolingo, up 1.3% on the day. It's having a pretty good week, Ken, up 10% for the week.
Yep, and that relative strength line is almost poking into new high ground, even though Duolingo is still about 4% off its high. This is, a decent looking base taking shape here. So while we're saying a lot of great individual action in leading growth stocks, some that are quite extended past proper buy points, you do have a lot of stocks setting up in bases here. So at least with Duolingo. You can see they just recently turned profitable, but you look at the earnings estimate, for 2024 and 2025. This is still a company that is really growing nicely. They operate like a mobile language learning app. Our colleague Justin Nielsen has been a longtime user of Duolingo, so not dealing with a super extended stock here, a stock that's still growing rapidly and still could be in the early stages of a move here. So we'll watch and see how this base shapes up. Doesn't look ready yet, but we'll see if it's going to start to drift lower here, or if we get a
Mhm.
nice update for the Nasdaq, maybe it's going to try to break out over that 378 recent high.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Perhaps some aggressive traders have already nibbled on this one, but we'll have to see, like you said, if it tightens up or breaks out. In this one, we do have plenty of time here before earnings, about a month. We are still in the thick of earnings season. And it is interesting because Duolingo is you could maybe make the argument that it's AI adjacent, right?
Hmm.
A lot of stuff has, a lot of industries are trying to inject AI into their businesses. Duolingo among them,
Yep.
and it did have a bit of a shakeout on Monday, but to see it recover again, it's up 10.5%. In a couple of days here, very impressive snapback.
It was a good show of support on Monday, no doubt about it. A lot of stocks did not, especially your AI
Yeah.
pure plays, that really fell sharply below their 50-day moving averages Monday. Duolingo, fell below the 50-day line, but it did manage to close nicely off lows, and then it has followed through nicely for 3 straight days. So this has always been a fundamental standout in our database. It's been in our screens for a long, long time, and you can see the last breakout over 215. It went on a
Hmm.
nice uptrend, and we're still in a healthy market here. So. We'll see if this is getting ready for another move higher, but definitely has the growth and that we'd like to see.
Muy bien. Let's go on over to XYZ, which is Block, parent of Square. I think an early entry here for the stock today, up 3.2%. A little bit more space now above that 50-day line after closing above that level in Wednesday's session. We've got about 3 weeks till earnings, Ken.
Yeah, this is a company that owns a fair amount of Bitcoin. It doesn't own
Hmm.
nearly as much as MicroStrategy, but it is sort of an adjacent Bitcoin play here. But we know Block. It's the parent company of Square. They do a payment and operations platform for small businesses, and they also run Cash App, which is that peer-to-peer. Um, Payments network and a banking platform. So the company is still a compelling growth story, and it's just another base setting up here. So rallied nicely up towards that 100 level. found a little resistance. Now it's forming a base and getting back closer to that high. So anytime a stock is showing strength in the market, we like to see how it digests its gains. You can see the recent pullback in block has been in pretty tepid volume after a nice heavy volume move. So I think there's a lot to like about the technicals
Mhm.
here, and just going to keep it on the watch list here and watch the base complete and see if we can get another upside breakout.
Yeah, I also like how it finally feels like this stock has moved out of this long sideways range here, going back to summer of 2022, really here, Ken. So perhaps earnings can be that next catalyst for the stock.
Yeah, and 80, but 80 was basically that level where it was, tried to rally back above it several times. There you go.
Mhm.
Finally cleared 80, ran towards 100, and a nice orderly pullback near the 10-week moving average, only 6% off its high. If you look at the daily chart, or the revenue growth has been slowing down in recent quarters. Typically, we don't
Right.
like to see that. So you've seen decelerating revenue growth, but if you look ahead to coming quarters, top line growth is expected to pick back up again. So you see some nice re-acceleration there. Earnings still look pretty good. This is growth stock that has a lot of characteristics we like to see.
Okay, let's wrap things up with a look at Doximity in the medical software group, ticker DOCS. Another stock carving the right side of a base, potentially a trend line that can be drawn. The stock today up 2.3%, up 4% for the week or so here. And we have that RS line blue dot on the weekly that underscores that price outperformance versus the S&P 500, which is quite notable here.
Yeah, kind of three similar setups. This is just another example of a base building stock. Doximity is often called the LinkedIn for medical professionals. It's just an online platform where doctors can share research and just share messages with one another. So it's sort of a LinkedIn for medical professionals. But a good growth prospects here as well. The earnings are due next week, so but I did want to talk about this one because the last time they reported earnings, boy, it made an explosive move. If we go back
Last
to the daily
three
chart, yeah,
reports, I think. Mhm.
but yeah, exactly. The three reports in a row where it has soared. So we'll see what the numbers look like this time around. But you see, volume the past 3 days has sort of been increasing as the stock rallies. So could be a candidate for an option trade. We might take a look at it for earnings preview. But another name with good fundamentals here. You've got revenue growth that's accelerating in over the past 2 quarters anyway. So that's a good sign. Yeah, so it's just another base building stock here with good fund ownership. Watching this name as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for analyzing all of those stocks for us today. Good
You
stuff.
betcha. My pleasure.
All right. And thanks everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today, but we will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, where we will be joined by Don Vandenbord of Revere Asset Management, longtime IBD style trader and money manager. So looking forward to having him back on the show to talk about how he's been approaching this market and this crazy week. So we'll have plenty to discuss then. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Thanks so much.